Welcome to the program. It was one of the most important events of Condoleezza Rice's trip to the Middle East, the U.S. Secretary of State's meeting with the Palestinian president in Ramallah.
She told Mahmoud Abbas that her country remains deeply committed to the creation of a Palestinian state. But the Palestinian president rejected outright any plans for a state with temporary borders.
And Hamas said without talking to them, Condoleezza Rice was wasting her time. Our first report is from John Terrett.
Condoleezza Rice with Mahmoud Abbas at their news conference in Ramallah. Top of their agenda, the Middle East roadmap that calls on Israel to recognize Palestine, Palestine to recognize Israel, and an end to all settlement activities. President Abbas told the Secretary of State he opposes the establishment of a provisional Palestinian state and is keen to move quickly towards a final settlement with the Israelis.
I also emphasized our refusal to accept any transitional or temporary solutions, such as a state with only temporary borders. We don't believe that it is a realistic solution.
Though Condoleezza Rice came empty-handed to this meeting, she did commit the U.S. to deeper involvement in brokering peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis.
I have heard loud and clear the call for deeper American engagement in these processes. The United States is absolutely committed to helping to find a solution where Israelis and Palestinians can live in security.
Condoleezza Rice's visit was in part to bolster Mahmoud Abbas in his standoff with Hamas over early elections.
Roadmap, it is just a foggy, cloudy plan. It is not clear for the Palestinians. It is not clear in the independent states. Not clear for the right of return for refugees. It is not clear for the fate of Jerusalem. So I think we don't want as a Palestinian to waste more time following the American steps in order to push us in the very dark tunnel.
This is day 2 of Condoleezza Rice's Middle East tour. Later on Sunday, she'll be in Jordan. On Monday, she meets with the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. John Terrett, Al Jazeera.
Well, our correspondents are in place across the region. Wally Batrawi in Ramallah, where those meetings have been taking place. Noura Day in Gaza, and David Chater is in Jerusalem. Wally, let's come to you first. A lot of supportive noises for the peace plan from Condoleezza Rice, but nothing concrete. So how will that meeting be received?
Well, this is true. She said before coming that she comes here with nothing, with no plans, but she comes here to consult with the Palestinians and the Israelis on how to proceed with the peace process and how to keep the momentum of the meeting that took place between President Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, which was only managed and came to effect because of the U.S. efforts. She also comes to see ways to implement the roadmap that has been there for a long time, and none of its items has been implemented. Also, she comes to see where the Palestinians are going towards the national unity government that is acceptable to the international community and meets the conditions of the quartet.
But Walid, she only met with President Abbas. She didn't meet with Hamas. In fact, she made a point of not meeting with Hamas. So what can be achieved without meeting with the democratically elected party?
Well, it's the U.S. position. It's not a new thing. She has been here before during the past year several times, and she never met with any representative of Hamas. On the contrary, she met with President Abbas and even with representatives of non-governmental organizations and other parliamentary blocs, and not Hamas, because the U.S. position is clear. There are no talks with Hamas unless such a government accepts the international conditions of recognizing the State of Israel, denouncing terror, and recognizing all agreements signed between the Palestinian Liberation Organization and the Israeli government. So this is nothing new. She said it before that she will not meet with Hamas, and that Abbas is the right leader for the Palestinians and the right leader for the international community to deal with. And this, of course, is being materialized by the promise to President Abbas to strengthen his security forces, whether in money or training or equipment.
OK, Walid, thank you. Let's cross to Noor O'Day in Gaza. Noor, Condoleezza Rice said the US remains committed to the roadmap peace plan. Is there the same belief in the roadmap in Gaza?
Well, on the Palestinian street, there is a lot of skepticism about the international involvement in the peace process or the prospects of peace between Palestine and Israel, especially U.S. involvement, which is viewed on the Palestinian street as one-sided. The side being taken, of course, is that of Israel. The roadmap, per se, had some support in the Palestinian street. Right now, 3 years after it was adopted or endorsed by the international community and by the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinians haven't seen any of its provisions implemented. And so talking about it, whether it is by Dr. Rice or any other international community representative or leader, does not mean much here on the street. The Palestinian street wants to see the siege lifted. They want to see economic relief. They want to see actions rather than talk and promises to basically have an influence or an effect on their lives. As they see it right now, there's a lot of talk and not a lot of doing.
President Abbas also said he was committed to ending violence within the Palestinian territories. Where are the unity talks at now between Hamas and Fatah?
Well, there were lower-level talks in the follow-up committee, which is where all the Palestinian factions meet. That meeting took place yesterday in Gaza City. And these meetings are meant to lay the groundwork for a possible meeting between President Abbas and Mr. Khalid Mish'al, who heads the Hamas movement. He resides in Damascus. Any meeting between President Abbas and Mr. Mish'al will only take place, according to the sources we've been speaking to, if these meetings, these preparatory meetings in Gaza and elsewhere, yield positive results. And as we saw today, President Abbas reiterated, if the deadlock persists, if these meetings and these consultations don't yield all the needed results, then the president will resort to the people, as he said it. He will go back to early presidential and parliamentary elections.
OK, Noor O'Day in Gaza, thank you. Let's go now to David Chater, who's in Jerusalem. David, a lot of talk about progress towards peace. Has there been an Israeli response?
At the moment, the Israeli cabinet are still meeting, but certainly the mood we've got of the ministers going into the meeting is not exactly looking in the direction of peace. One or two maverick ministers are looking entirely in the opposite direction, including Avigdor Lieberman, the Minister for Strategic Affairs. He had a meeting with Condoleezza Rice last night, and he's reiterated the comments he made to her, that he feels that the Gaza ceasefire is very shaky. He believes that another full-scale Israeli military incursion of the Gaza Strip is inevitable, he said. And he also told her that would require, to hold on to the so-called Israeli army gains, some 30,000 NATO troops. So when those sort of things are being discussed by a senior minister inside the Israeli cabinet, the ground doesn't look like it's being prepared for any forward momentum towards the peace process.
Dr. Rice is due to meet Ehud Olmert. What are we expecting to come out of that, if anything?
I think it's pretty clear what President Mahmoud Abbas wants to come out of that meeting. They had a meeting themselves between the two of them just before Christmas. And Condoleezza Rice reiterated at the press conference today that she wanted the momentum established at that meeting to continue and to increase. But of course, there hasn't really been much momentum established by that meeting. The Israeli Prime Minister promised that he would give up $100 million from the customs and tax revenues that the Israelis have been keeping that owed to the Palestinians. That hasn't happened yet. He also he promised to start the easing of restrictions inside the occupied Palestinian territories in the West Bank. Many people, many journalists have searched around the West Bank looking for the easing of those restrictions. They are simply not apparent. So just those two basic promises he made last time he met the Palestinian president, that'll be what Condoleezza Rice is mentioning to him. Come up with the goods, start giving some concessions to boost the position of the Palestinian president in his confrontation with Hamas. I think that's pretty clear what that meeting will concentrate on.
David, thank you. Our correspondents there, David Chater in Jerusalem, Walid Batrawi in Ramallah and Noor O'Day in Gaza. Thank you all very much.